Yep, negative recruiting is kicking the Oklahoma Sooners' tail right now, to the point that a commit had to basically put out a statement. Let me explain why it's running rampant based upon the conversation I had with General Manager Jim Naggie, and all of that. So let's dive into it. Before we do that, welcome to UNFAIRSports. I'm your host, Jay. Thank you for pulling up to the channel. So as y'all know, SEC Media Days are over. We're past that. Great time. Lots of content up. So please check out here on the channel, as well as check out Locked On Sooners. Me and John did a bunch of interviews, and it was a good time. Like, got to talk to some analysts from ESPN, CBS Sports, all of that. Of course, your boy got an interview with Jim Naggie, so I lucked out on that one. Blessings on blessings on blessings. But I want to talk about how the Sooners are dealing with hardcore negative recruiting, which is why the class kind of looks like it does for right now. But I expect it to improve in time. Let me explain what I mean. So, a few days ago, while I was in Atlanta for Media Days, player Daniel Odum had to put out this statement. And I'll explain why he put it out. So you get this statement. This is one of the hardest decisions I had to make in my life, blah, blah, blah. Only one person, I can only choose one school, blah, 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 blah. Effective immediately. I'm shutting down my recruitment and 100% committed to Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner. So as you all know, Brent Venables has a rule when it comes to his recruiting, is that, you know, if you're committed, you're not going to do other visits. You should only commit when you're ready to shut things down. And some fans have lost their minds about that and have not found that as a very effective strategy. While at the same time, a lot of fans like the fact that we don't deal with a ton of flips throughout our, recruiting cycle. It's not very common. You're going to get one or two because that's just how it works, no matter what. But Oklahoma's been one of the least amount when it comes to flips. They've also been one of the least when it comes to the transfer portal. Like, the retention rate is probably closer than 80% for Oklahoma, which is pretty high out there. But this statement here basically is Daniel Odum talking about he ain't going nowhere. And he put this out because there was a report going out that he was visiting Colorado very soon. Yeah. So he's going to visit Colorado during the season. And of course, for Oklahoma, wide receiver recruiting has been a struggle, but they locked this down and got him to put out a statement saying that he ain't going nowhere. Now, most people thought that Daniel Odum was out on Oklahoma the minute that Jaden O'Neal flipped over and went to Florida State. They thought that he would bounce because Daniel Odum, Jaden O'Neal are good friends. So I totally understand that. But that didn't turn out to be that way. It turned out to be something different. It turned out to be that Daniel Odum is 100% locked in on Oklahoma, and so he's going to be your main wide receiver as a top 150 player in the country, 4-star wide receiver. So Oklahoma's got that guy locked in. But we're talking about that because that has been the struggle for Oklahoma in the recruiting world. They've been dealing with schools hitting them with all kinds of negative recruiting. Why? Because of Brent Venables. The negative recruiting conversations have been a few things. One, the things that happened in the wide receiver room last year. All the injuries we dealt with, 6 players going down, and then you had Nick Anderson, Andrew Anthony, Brennan Thompson, right? J.J. Hester. All these wide receivers bounced right after the season. So a lot of people was like, a lot of turnover there, man. It's not safe for a wide receiver to go play at Oklahoma. Plus, the offense was awful. Totally understand that negative recruiting. Then they're leveraging the Brent Venables is about to lose his job angle. Totally understand. That is another component that you probably should use as an opposing team to negative recruit against Oklahoma. Then you go into the aspect of, look at what happened with Jaden O'Neal. They promise one thing and they don't live up to all those promises. So you see that. That's what Oklahoma's dealing with on the recruiting trail. And a lot of people don't get that part. I've pointed that out before. They're getting a lot of negative recruiting right now, and so Oklahoma's going to struggle a little bit when it comes to getting talent. But then when you have a player that does this and put out a statement like that to let you know that they're in, it feels like the ship is getting righted. It feels like the ship is maintaining we have who we're locked in on, and we're going to go after these particular players, which leads to my conversation with Jim Naggie. The things I took away from that is not only did he emphasize, don't know where the misconception came in that Oklahoma's not going to recruit 5 stars. We're just going to make sure that we find the value that's most important. And truth be told, his statement there to me jumped out because he really emphasized that same thing that I emphasized on the live stream. Retention is just as important as acquisition. You got to pay the dudes that you got on your roster now, especially with rev share. If they produce, you got to up their money unless you want them to transfer. You've got limits. NIL, cool. Still do that on top. But what player is not going to want to take the main dollars on top of the NIL dollars? Why would they limit themselves on that? This is just like they do in the NFL. And so for Naggie, that conversation leads right into, I don't want to pay a dude that high amount of money because, of course, us as fans aren't privy to the number. I don't want to pay a dude that high of a number if he's not going to play. Why would I allot 5% of my cap to a player that's probably not going to see the field? Now, I'll tell you this. If you notice the players that they're going after, the 5-star that we're definitely hardcore after, quarterback that we picked up as well, you probably recognize that there's a very good chance that those are players that will have an opportunity to play soon. Like, you got to pay for a quarterback, right? But every other position, unless you feel like you need to supplement that with somebody else, probably not going to pay for it. For example, Michael Fasusi, Ryan Fogier, 2 offensive linemen that very good chance you're going to see both of them on the field this year to the point that they're probably going to play for 3 years. But do you want to bring in another tackle that is going to demand the exact same amount of money, if not more than those guys, that you don't think is better than those two? Ask yourself that question. You tell me. Hop in the comments. I want to know. Yes, you want to stack talent on talent on talent, but Oklahoma's not able to get those Nick Saban or Kirby Smart discounts yet. They're not. Just not where they're at today in the game. So technically for them, the biggest thing is they're going to have to pay for players because they kind of got to pay for them. But you want to make sure you're paying for the players that are going to play, not the ones that aren't. That's the thing that I'm preaching to you all today and the thing that I am emphasizing heavily in this video. Oklahoma's going to play ball. They're going to spend money, but they're only spending money on the players out of high school that will play. Or we're just going to go to the portal and get somebody else. Now, you've seen them do that. Don't pretend like they ain't spending money. That's the thing I don't understand. Just because they're not spending money on every single player they bring in, doesn't mean that they're not spending money, because that is literally what Oklahoma has been doing. I mean, you go get a Dominic Williams, who was expensive. He was expensive. You go get John Mateer. He was expensive. And I love that Brent Venables always emphasized he took less money to come to Oklahoma. He may have taken a little bit less, but I think Mateer also has a lot of other stuff not only lined up, but at the same time, he's coming with his offensive coordinator. Makes things a lot easier to transition. Jay Knott wasn't cheap. I keep reminding y'all that. But Naggie pointing that part out to me, it just vindicates the hell what I try to tell all of y'all. That's exactly their mindset. Like, so high school, they're going to recruit top tier players. They just got to make sure that they're players that can come in and immediately compete while also taking care of everybody else on the roster. One player y'all got to keep your eyes out for next season as we talk about wide receivers is going to be Elijah Thomas. I think Elijah Thomas is going to play a lot this year and next. I think Josiah Martin's also going to get a ton of burn late in this season and into next. But then you go down the list of everybody else. Carry on, Zion Kearney. You got a long list of players you got to pay for. So I ask you all this. As you're seeing the negative recruiting happening and Oklahoma's responding to it, do you not think that they're doing this the right way? Naggie also mentioned one other thing that I thought was interesting. He came downstream when it came to the recruiting aspect. He wasn't here at the beginning of 26, the middle of 26. He says we're at the end. We're in downstream. OV season was in June. He got here in March. So they've got a lot of work to do to play catch up. I think they'll be okay. Because if I'm going to be honest with you all, the class that I am concerned about, that will have me, not the class that I will be concerned about. Now, I'm not concerned yet, but I will be concerned about 2027. Because that's the class we need to restock, because 2026 is not going to matter for about 3 years. Actually, I say 2 years. The 2028 season is when you need 1 or 2 or 3 or 26 kids to break out. Your 24 and your 25s are really going to run things in 28. But that's when 26 kids, you're going to need someone to jump out. But 2029, really going to be important. 30, that's when your 2027 class is really going to kick in. So these classes don't kick in until late. And I think in between there, you'll bring some portal stuff. I like what we have back end from 23, 24, and 25 to go into these next few years. Still very high recruiting classes. You do need to have component and pieces that will build up there. Remember, I showed y'all we talked about on the live stream, the blue chip ratio, Oklahoma 70% this season, dog. What makes you think that that's not going to maintain? I think majority of the class is still going to be 4s and 5s, probably a lot more 4s and 5s, but it's still in the blue chip ratio, which is the most important thing. But we're going to find some 3-star gems in there, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, let me know what y'all think. Want to hear your comments. Let your boy know your thoughts. The negative recruiting is real. Just keep your eyes on it, because it is. It's real, and it's bad. So, anyway, all right. Check out the live stream if you didn't. Me and Coop talked through media days. We talked through all of that stuff. And, yeah, I think that Oklahoma is going to be just fine long term. If you want to check out the interview I did with Naggie, feel free to check it out on Locked On Sooners. A great time. Blessed, highly favored to do that. But we'll have more content coming to you all very soon. Peace.